Australia is a land like no other, due to its separation from the great supercontinent Gondwana 99 million years ago, and its complete isolation from any other landmass 30 million years ago. For this reason, its natural history has developed in isolation from the rest of the world, evolving unique species that are found nowhere else on Earth. Whilst migration across continents occurred elsewhere, and species evolved from one continent to the next, leaving traces of their ancestral past, the same cannot be said for Australia. In fact, 90% of Australia's mammals are only found there and nowhere else on the planet. Some of its strangest and most unique animals include the egg-laying mammal, the duck-billed platypus, the cassowary, the echidna, the Tasmanian devil, and, of course, kangaroos. There are no natural land predators in Australia, except for venomous snakes and spiders, which don't actively hunt Australia's larger terrestrial wildlife. Only dingoes pose a threat. These were introduced some 5,000 years ago by Asian seafarers and are now considered Australia's apex terrestrial predator. Of course, enter the water and you'll have the likes of freshwater and saltwater crocodiles, box jellyfish, and an array of shark species to answer to. But on land, that's not the case. Here, we ask the question, could hyenas survive in Australia? Let's look at where and how hyenas survive in their native countries to find out if they could make Australia their home. Hyenas are often portrayed as being dim-witted scavengers of the African savannas, but in reality, they are highly intelligent animals and exceptional hunters capable of taking down prey much larger than themselves. They display many canine characteristics, which give the impression that they are closely related to dogs. This includes their terrestrial lifestyle, inability to climb trees, catching prey with their teeth rather than their claws, and their feet, which are adept at running with non-retractable claws. But look a little closer, and scientists consider them more closely related to felines, the cats. Their grooming behavior, scent marking, and mating, and parental techniques are far more cat-like than dog-like, and they are considered feliform, like other cats. There are 4 extant species of hyena. The striped hyena lives in North Africa and parts of Asia, the aardwolf in East and Southern Africa, the brown hyena in parts of Southern Africa, and the spotted hyena across much of sub-Saharan Africa. The most common species is the spotted hyena, which we will focus on for this video. They are highly sociable carnivores who live in groups called clans. These can consist of as many as 80 individuals. There are complex social interactions that occur in these clans, in a hierarchy with females typically dominating over males. Their social complexities have been likened to some of the primates, with the ability to make social decisions based on the knowledge of others in the group. They understand that some of their clan members may be more reliable than others, and can identify distant kin, and form ally networks. They wouldn't be able to maintain these complex social bonds if they weren't highly intelligent animals. They are more successful hunters than lions, and typically prey on wildebeest, zebra, and Thompson's gazelles, as well as giraffes, kudu, and gemsbok. They can hunt individually or as a group, and have been recorded taking down baby elephants and Cape buffalo. If they were to live in Australia, hyenas may consider the likes of kangaroos as their typical prey. These marsupials are abundant throughout Australia, where there are said to be more than 50 million. Some Australians refer to the kangaroo populations as plague-like proportions. So, introducing hyenas could help bring down their numbers. Another animal that some in Australia consider to be a pest is the goat. Since goats were introduced to Australia with the first fleet in 1788, they have multiplied, escaped, and become feral. Today, feral populations of goats amount to more than 2.3 million. They live in the harsh Australian climate, thriving on sparse vegetation and limited water sources, but they could provide significant food for hyenas if their habitats were to overlap. Goats aren't the only feral animals whose numbers have skyrocketed and that are now considered pests. Australia has the world's largest population of feral horses. Some 400,000 wild horses now occupy parts of the Australian Alps, Kosciuszko National Park, parts of Queensland, and the Northern Territory, and Western Australia. These would be akin to zebras, which hyenas are highly skilled at taking down in Africa. It seems between Australia's natural wildlife and introduced species, there would be enough food for a sizable population of hyenas to survive. But what about Australia's habitat and climate? Could hyenas survive these conditions? Are they comparable to those found in sub-Saharan Africa? Spotted hyenas are an incredibly flexible and adaptable species. Their ability to hunt both alone and as groups gives them distinct advantages that other predators don't possess. But they are also adaptable when it comes to habitat. They occupy a broad range of habitats across sub-Saharan Africa. They are found in semi-deserts, savanna, open woodland, dense dry woodland, and mountainous forests up to 4,000 meters in altitude. Their cousins, the striped and brown hyenas, are more suited to desert and semi-desert conditions. In Australia, these kinds of habitats exist across the country. In fact, almost a quarter of Australia's landmass is covered in savanna. The Australian savanna covers parts of the northern section of Western Australia, the Northern Territory, and higher parts of Queensland. It is characterized by large open grasslands, dotted with small trees and shrubs. Whilst a large population of feral horses that could be considered hyena prey live in Kosciuszko National Park, the climate there would likely be too cold for hyenas. It is an unusual alpine region on Australia's mainland, containing Australia's highest peak, Mount Kosciuszko. However, there are also wild horses living in Australia's savannas. Not only these, but the savannas are also home to the likes of eastern grey kangaroos and wallabies that would provide food for a population of hyenas on the open grasslands. Other habitats within Australia include deserts and semi-deserts, which cover about a fifth of Australia. It is the driest inhabited continent on Earth. More than 80% of Australia receives less than 24 inches of rainfall each year, and some places receive only 3 inches. Some of the desert regions may receive too little rainfall to sustain a population of hyenas, but on their fringes and near water sources, spotted hyenas are likely to be able to exist. Australian forests cover approximately 1/5 of the mainland, situated mostly on the fringes of the continent, particularly in the north and the east. They could offer a habitat for hyenas. In Africa, hyenas live in open woodland and dense dry woodland. Only a small pocket of dry woodland exists in New South Wales, so there may not be enough coverage for hyenas to occupy that particular region. But with a broad range of other habitats to offer, it seems hyenas would likely have enough territory in which to survive, and it may not be a case of just surviving in Australia. Hyenas could potentially thrive there. With no large predators to compete with them, they would have access to all the prey species on the mainland. On the Serengeti in Africa, hyenas outnumber lions 3-1. They are mortal enemies. Both species scavenge carcasses and will fight for their rights to the meal. Usually, lions will dominate a carcass, and hyenas will have to wait their turn. This is mostly due to the larger size of the lions and their greater numbers across a carcass. But when smaller carcasses are available, typically hyenas are first to find it and manage to consume it before lions do. They are experts at sniffing out dead animals. The presence of both of these top predators within the same environment causes conflict and dictates the animal's behaviors to some degree. When the lions are present, hyenas adapt their hunting to be more diurnal, avoiding their most fearsome competitor at nighttime. However, when lions are not within the territory, hyenas become solely nocturnal. In Australia, there would be no predators to compete with. Dingoes are far smaller than hyenas and typically prey on rabbits. Before the introduction of rabbits to the Australian mainland, dingoes primarily fed on wallabies and kangaroos, and so could have been considered competitors for hyenas. Dingoes are already thought to be responsible for the demise and extinction of the Tasmanian wolf and Tasmanian devil on the mainland through competition for food. But they would be unlikely to compete with hyenas, who would hunt larger prey. With all things considered, we believe that hyenas could survive in Australia. They would likely have enough native and introduced prey species to satiate their appetite. The diverse habitats across Australia would support their lifestyle, and the climate in some parts is comparable to parts of sub-Saharan Africa. With no competition from large land predators like lions, hyenas would likely thrive in Australia. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.